Seikka was the strongest exorcist alive until he got betrayed, so he isekai'd himself to live peacefully. However, everything changes when he awakens powers from his previous life, so he starts cracking enemies by day and baddies by night. This story started years ago in a world where Seikka was an overpowered exorcist. However, because he gained so much power, humans grew to fear him and sent his favorite student to finish him off. This made Seikka realize that he still had a weakness, so he used a powerful reincarnation spell to start over in a new world. After being reborn into the family of a powerful duke, Seikka's father, Blaze, places him in a magic circle to figure out his magic affinity. After Seikka fails to trigger any of the elements, his older brother Glai says he is a worthless peasant who only got lucky to share their last name because Blaze couldn't keep it in his pants. However, Seikka knows he can't use magic because he can still use his exorcist powers from his past life. So he heads outside and turns several leaf shikagamas into animals, sending them off to learn more about this new world. Years later, it's his birthday, but no one celebrates it because his mother was one of Blaze's mistresses, and he is still treated like an illegitimate slave. One day, as Blaze decides to train Glai and his oldest son Ruff, Seikka asks if he can at least watch them and is finally allowed. Ruff takes the first shot at a target, and after Glai does the same, he starts teasing Seikka, asking if he wants a turn to prove his worth to their father. Ruff tries to stop him, but then Seikka agrees, and after taking Glai's wand, he creates a blue flame which completely obliterates the target. After Blaze's jaw drops in shock, he says there are rare cases where people born without magic learn to cast powerful spells. At this, Seikka asks if he can study magic at the Royal Academy his brothers will be attending, but Blaze refuses and says he can only get a tutor. As the months go on, Seikka continues learning as much as he can about this new world. Eventually, he gets strong enough to summon one of the powerful Ayashikis named Yuki, whom he had conquered in his previous life. As soon as Yuki shows up, she excitedly jumps on his magic wand and starts yapping about how much she missed him. To avoid getting exposed, Seikka considers sending her back, but then she transforms into a fox familiar and promises to stay hidden at all times. The next day, Seikka spots Glai telling Yifa to come to his room later for a special training. So he steps in to protect her and easily blocks Glai's pathetic punch. After Glai leaves, Yifa thanks Seikka before asking for his help and taking him to see a wounded creature. She wants him to save it, but Seikka makes her look away so he can use a powerful transference spell. After the creature runs off, Yifa starts praising Seikka, but he can sense that she also has abilities. Yifa immediately tries to laugh it off, but when Seikka tells her to drop the act, she summons a bunch of floating orbs called elementals and explains that they sometimes help her with chores. This makes Seikka realize that she has enough power to become his ally, so he teaches her how to control an elemental flame. They then spend the following months training whenever they get the chance. About a year later, Seikka endures another uneventful birthday, but on his way inside, Glai and Ruff stop him to ask if he wants to join their sword training. Glai says he should be excited because only the army would accept a powerless loser like him. Just then, the servants rush in to tell them that a large monster is heading straight to the estate. After they open the windows and realize that it's an overpowered beast called the Elder Newt, Glai starts running for dear life. "Why are you running? Why are you running?" while Ruff tells everyone else to get deeper into the mansion. Seikka, on the other hand, runs outside because Yifa is in harm's way. Thankfully, she uses the elemental flame to block the Elder Newt's attack, which surprises Seikka. While she gets to a safe distance, Seikka leads the Elder Newt to the front of the estate. Ruff sees this and thinks Seikka is about to get an early funeral, but then Seikka unleashes a poisonous flame that unalives the Elder Newt. After a brief moment of shock, everyone in the mansion starts praising Seikka, while Glai continues pissing himself under a table. Blaze makes it back in time to see Seikka's legendary takedown, so he throws a feast to celebrate. As they eat, he asks Seikka how he knew to use the poison flame, and Seikka claims that he just read about it a while ago. Blaze then commends his efforts and decides to reward him, so Seikka asks for permission to study at the Lodonia Academy of Magic. After recalling all the time he saw Seikka studying, Blaze grants the request, shocking Glai, who immediately tries to argue about it. Just then, Seikka asks if Yifa can follow him to the academy as well, but Blaze refuses because she has no magical talent. However, after asking for a chance to prove her usefulness, Seikka tells Yifa to use the flame elementals like they have been practicing. After she successfully uses a mid-ranked flame spell, Blaze agrees to let her go to the academy as well. Glai immediately reminds him that their family has never sent two sons on the same path, and he was the first to be granted permission to study at the academy. Blaze agrees that two brothers can't do the same thing, but then he tells Gly to join the army, since he has more muscle than brains. Pissed off, Gly argues that he deserves to go to the academy more than Seikka until Blaze points out the way he spent the last year making trouble with his friends. Gly then challenges Seikka to a duel to decide who gets to study at the academy. After Seikka accepts, Blaze decides to hold the duel at noon tomorrow, and they are not allowed to use high-level spells or real swords. Hours later, Yuki asks Seikka if he is preparing new Shikigami to unalive Gly, but he says it won't go that far. After hearing a knock on the door, he opens up and is surprised to see Ruft, who then gives him a birthday present. Ruft also apologizes for not being a better older brother over the years, and says he just didn't know how to communicate properly. After Seikka accepts the apology, Ruft also asks him to go easy on Gly before leaving. Seikka then returns to his bed with the glass pen and listens to Yuki, who admits that Ruft isn't as bad as the other losers in this family. Just then, Seikka senses something and tells her to hide before a powerful wind spell blasts the windows open. It's Gly, and he wants to have the duel now. So Seikka meets him outside and asks if he really wants to do this. After telling Seikka to forget about the academy, Gly says they have to keep going until he accepts defeat and forfeits the academy. He also says Seikka was lucky that the elder newt showed up just in time to make him look strong. As soon as Seikka agrees to the duel, Gly unleashes a high-ranked flame spell, but Seikka takes it like a meaningless tickle. As Gly attacks with stronger spells, Seikka creates a light barrier to block them before using a Shikigami to completely shut down Gly's body. He then creates the feeling of a broken arm until Gly surrenders and passes out. When Yuki says it could be dangerous to keep him alive after using some of his true powers, Seikka reminds her that Ruft already begged him to go easy on the slow-brained dingus. He then recalls when Gly called him lucky and smirks, because he has been planning this very night for over 6 months. Back then, he summoned another powerful Ayashiki named Bongs, and tasked him with finding the elder newt and driving it from its nest. As he picks Gly up, Yuki asks why he doesn't just take whatever he wants, since humans in this world are weak. So Seikka reminds her that the same weak humans defeated him in the previous life. This time, he wants to become one of them and learn everything possible to ensure he can never be defeated again. Several weeks later, he and Yifa get ready for their trip to Lodonia, and Ruft notices that he kept Yifa up all night studying. After Ruft passes on a message from Blaze, they get into the carriage, and Seikka gives Yifa a necklace filled with magic stones so she can attract more elementals to herself. Days later, Seikka gets sick from being on the road for too long, but then Yifa tells him to cheer up because they are finally on the outskirts of the academic city. Shortly after this, they find an inn to spend the night, and Seikka tells Yifa that he got her a room next to his so she won't have to worry about accommodation. However, after reminding him that she is now his personal slave, Yifa asks if she should come for a special visit to his room tonight. The inexperienced nerd thinks she is talking about dinner plans, so he tells her not to worry since he is already full. After she leaves, Yuki gets pissed and says Yifa is only trying to gobble up his meatloaf, but Seikka ignores this and says she can't possibly know what Yifa wants. Yuki insists that she just wants to get cracked and tells Seikka to spend some time learning about girls because he clearly has no clue what he is in for at the academy. The next day, at the academy, Seikka notices a pool of magic but decides to ignore it so they can start the exam. The examiner, Karen, then explains how the magic orb assesses them based on the elements they have an affinity for. After Yifa places her hand and triggers the wind and fire elements, Seikka places his and fails to awaken any of the elements. The other students immediately accuse him of using his family's connections to enter the academy, which makes Yifa upset. The next moment, a commoner named Emu walks up and almost blows up the orb with her latent magical abilities just to help Seikka get past this point. As she walks off, he thanks her, but she tells him to save it because she also hates rich nobles who use connections to beat the system. After she tells him to stay out of her way and leaves, Seikka realizes that she is someone he knew in his previous life. After they complete the written exams, Yifa gets worried that she might not pass, so Seikka tells her to focus on the practical exam. He then spots Emu walking by with a sword, and this makes him curious because she is already incredibly powerful without one. Minutes later, they all head out for the practical exams, and the teacher, Cordell, explains that they are to attack as many targets as they can with their abilities. After a bunch of students use the only elements they have an affinity for, Yifa walks up and uses the elemental flame to incinerate her target. This already shocks everyone watching since her magic level is very low. But then she goes a step further by unleashing a powerful wind spell that completely obliterates the next target. Seeing the shocked look on everyone's faces, she apologizes for doing too much and asks Seikka if it was good. Seikka then struggles to hold his tears back because he never expected his student to become so powerful in such a short period of time. With that, he steps up for his turn, and everyone expects a humiliating display since he doesn't have any magical ability. However, when he uses his blue flames to ignite the first target, their jaws drop to the ground from shock. Seikka barely flinches at this and crystallizes the next target with a spell Cordell has never seen before. This time, Cordell calls a timeout and asks what on earth he just did. So Seikka makes up a name for the spell since he can't tell them what he actually did. For his final target, Seikka starts waterbending like he just unlocked the avatar state and acts like it's a cakewalk. While Cordell and the other students wonder what kind of freak he is, Yifa, on the other hand, gets excited to see that his immense powers finally made the haters shut up. Later that day, Karen meets up with Cordell to discuss the exam, and after he explains what Seikka and Yifa did, she gets shocked because their abilities should not even be possible for people with such low magic. However, Cordell says the most surprising was her student, Mu, who easily destroyed targets with every element. At this, Karen says she might be the hero from Legends who is destined to defeat the Demon King. A couple of days after this, the results get released, and Seikka gets shocked to see that he placed below Yifa. More days pass, and they finally get the official welcome as students of the academy. That evening, they show up for the entrance ceremony, but Yifa spots a bunch of dark elementals flying around. They decide to follow them and spot a huge magic circle, which makes Yifa feel uneasy. Seikka also knows something is up, so he tells Yifa to ignore it while secretly releasing a Shikigami to watch over it. Minutes later, they join everyone else in the hall, and while Seikka stuffs his face, Mu takes to the stand to address everyone as their representative for the year. Just then, Seikka senses the magic circle activating and prepares himself for a fight right before a group of lesser demons rips through the doors. While everyone panics, some of the teachers try to fight the demons and almost get torn to shreds, but Mu blocks the attack and tells the weaklings to scram. As she fights them, Seikka notices that the demons are moving a lot slower than they should, which tells him that someone is controlling them nearby. Using the Shikigami from before, he spots the caster and tells Yifa to run if she can't fight because he has to go handle business. Using a teleportation spell, he catches up to the demon, who then commends him for having enough balls to face him alone. However, he still calls Seikka stupid and sends 3 demons after him. After easily unaliving the first 2, Seikka seals the third away for his personal use later. This makes the demon, Gull, realize that he is not dealing with the average student. As Seikka continues smirking, Gull unleashes a barrage of attacks, but Seikka easily evades them until Gull teleports one of the swords and almost takes Seikka's head off. Sensing the danger, Seikka decides to lock in, but after he dodges yet another attack, Gull teleports himself and takes one of Seikka's arms while at it. Despite this, Seikka merely smiles and finally asks Gull what he wants. Gull then says he is gunning for the legendary hero destined to defeat the Demon Lord. Seikka asks if he is talking about the stories passed down over the years, but Gull calls him a fool for thinking the legend is made up. He assures Seikka that the hero is real and said to be an overpowered red-haired girl. This makes Seikka blurt out Anyu's name, so Gull thanks him for making the search easier. He then slices Seikka's head off and once again commends him for being a good fighter. However, as he turns to leave, Seikka restores himself as if nothing happened. Gull immediately lands another solid shot, but Seikka revives himself again, so Gull promises to keep going until he drops for good. This time, though, Seikka attacks with a powerful water spell before summoning a lightning Ayashiki to finish the job. Despite this, Gull survives and manages to stab right through Seikka's arm. But this was just Seikka's plan to get him close enough. After weakening him, Seikka summons Mizuchi, an extremely powerful dragon Ayashiki, which then turns the demon into a quick night snack. The next moment, Seikka realizes that Mizuchi wants to escape, so he unleashes his Shikigamas to pull the raging dragon back into its prison dimension. After Yuki finally shows up and explains that she hid to avoid holding him back, they return to the party hall, where Mu has stacked all the lesser demons like dominoes. Seeing this makes Seikka realize that he only wants to protect her from the shadows so she can take the spotlight as the strongest in this world. A month after the demon attack, Seikka shows up at the academy, just to immediately be greeted by Yifa. Seikka has one goal in this new life, which is to make friends with someone strong and reap the benefits like a typical leech. He tries being friends with Ainyu because she's the student final boss at the moment, so he greets her, but she's cold and asks him to shut up forever. Seikka and Yifa continue walking to class when suddenly, a pot appears above them and tips over. They're almost cooked, literally, until Seikka uses some kind of paper substitution jutsu to teleport them out just in time. Professor Cordell pulls out of his window and apologizes for playing with his food, explaining that it's some gross mix of monster blood and minerals for his research. He tried moving it with magic but failed because he's a light magic user, so he's not really the brightest in dark magic. He apologizes again and walks off, so Seikka and Yifa get to class. In class, the professor says that the academy's anniversary is coming, so the top two students, Amyu and Yifa, need to help with a ritual. They have to take the new student roster to a forest temple and get it blessed. Seikka thinks it's risky, remembering the demon fight there, and asks what happens if a student refuses. And the professor says if that's the case, then he's next in line. Seikka tells Yifa to give up her spot, which shocks the other students, but he says that a slave shouldn't handle something this important. After class, he apologizes to Yifa, and she realizes that he's just trying to take attention off Amyu, who everyone's slowly starting to resent after the demon fight. Yifa wonders if Amyu is his type, and Seikka says that he's just trying to be her friend because she's the strongest. Yifa gets jealous and says that she can get strong too, but Seikka explains that Amyu will be so strong that everyone will fear and glaze her at the same time. A few days later, Seikka gets the roster and heads into the forest with Amyu. Amyu is suspicious, thinking he's hitting on her even though he's got Yifa. But Seikka says that it's just a misunderstanding, and nothing's going on. So he's definitely not building a harem of powerful mages. Amyu's head suddenly hurts, and Seikka notices a magic circle, which suddenly drags them into a dungeon. 3 lizard men show up, but Amyu rushes at them with a fireball and wipes them out like it's a bot warm-up. An ogre pops behind her while she's still busy aura farming, but Seikka immediately smashes its head with a wooden pillar before any aura could be lost in combat. Amy wonders where the hell he got that spell, so he tells her that it's lamprobe training. After that, they start exploring the dungeon, and Seikka lights the way with talismans stuck to the ceiling. Yuki asks him what he's doing, and he says that he's leaving a trail so his Shikigami above ground can hopefully find them and help them escape. Just then, more monsters show up, and Amyu goes ballistic again, but she finds herself off guard and gets knocked out, so Seikka rushes in, stabbing the monsters with wooden stakes. Seeing that Amyu is knocked out cold, he summons a giant centipede that wipes out the rest. After some time, Amyu wakes up and is shocked that all the monsters are dead. Her head still hurts, but Seikka puts up a barrier, which eases it. He says that it blocks curses and asks when the headache started. She says it's since she joined the academy, but she found no marks, so it's probably not a curse. Seikka says that some curses hide in spots she can't see, which worries her. She asks him to turn around so he won't see some expensive premium features for free. Then she strips down so he can check, but he still finds no marks. He says it could be hidden differently. Since the barrier stops it, it has to be some sort of curse. Amy wonders if she'll have to stay stuck in the barrier forever, but Seikka makes a copy of her using a strand of her hair, claiming that she's in love with him. But Seikka says they're just family, which Anyu finds funny, because a noble calling a slave family is peak fairy tale cringe. Seikka says that he's always been treated like an outsider, and Yifa is the only one who acted normally toward him. Amy then talks a bit about her family, but it's a touchy topic, so Seikka asks what she likes to do instead, and she says fighting. She's loved fighting since she was little, even though her parents thought it was weird, and most others got scared of getting hurt or straight up getting sent back to their creator. One time, she was part of this party where half of them got wiped out, but she wanted more, and everyone thought she was a psycho. She came to the academy to get stronger, thinking that if she became the strongest, fighting would get boring, and she could be normal. After fighting the demons, she had way too much fun and thinks she's messed up, but Seikka tells her she's fine, and she thanks him for letting her vent. Seikka then finds the exit to the dungeon, and they reach the boss room, where they find the snake final boss. The snake spits acid at Seikka, but Amyu distracts it with her wind lance. Seikka pins it down with a metal spear, and Amyu throws a fireball, causing a chain reaction and explosion, then stabs it in the head, finishing it off. Afterwards, Amyu hugs Seikka, and they go on to find a sword that Seikka gives to Amyu, while he gets a magic ring. They escape and tell the professor what happened, but she didn't know that a dungeon was under the temple, and since the magic circle is gone, they can't find the culprit. Later at night, Seikka goes to visit Professor Cordell to tell him that the jig is up. The professor is surprised, thinking he erased all evidence. Seikka tells him to quit the Harry Potter guise and show his true form, because he's actually just a human working for demons. Cordell brags about his curse, but Seikka tells him that he's played these games before, so he flips it back to Cordell, which makes him bleed out. Seikka's low-key impressed that he made a curse from scratch, but curses are his thing as an exorcist. Afterwards, Yuki asks how he knew the professor was the culprit. So he explains that his Shikigami found pollen only from flowers near the magic circle. Now that he's solved the problem, he hopes that he can finally act like a normal student. The next day, he gives Yifa the magic ring to help with attracting elemental spirits. Amyu shows up, and Seikka tries being friendly with her again, but he gets the same reaction as before, leaving him confused about understanding women in this new life. After a whole year, Seikka and his classmates are sophomores now, and the academy throws a feast to celebrate. Amyu thanks Yifa for helping her study all year, and she's happy she can actually enjoy food, and not a demon curse all you can eat. Meanwhile, Seikka's been watching the whole school with his talismans, but no demons have grown a pair to attack yet. When the vice principal walks up and tells him and Yifa to see the principal, Amyu jokes that he's finally getting expelled, but Seikka's got a bad feeling about this. Meanwhile, a young female student watches from the shadows, playing ninja in a school filled with mages. The next evening, on their way to see the principal, Yifa wonders what the principal is like, since the vice principal basically runs everything. They enter the office and see a small dwarf woman, who says that she expected Seikka to be a cocky brat. Seikka says that he's surprised that one of the 7 dwarves runs the academy, but she tells him that she doesn't like that term. Seikka's comment reminds the principal of his uncle, but she immediately gets to the point and says that she wants him to enter the sword fighting tournament. She calls another student named Mabel and explains that the academy gets 2 entries, so she wants him to go with her. Later during lunch, Amyu hears this and is shocked that she wasn't picked, since she's been carrying fights harder than an overpowered pay-to-win player. She asks why they're joining a sword tournament, and Yifa tells her that magic is allowed this year. Amyu still can't believe she wasn't chosen despite being good at both sword and magic. Seikka feels that she is avoiding sending someone too strong so they wouldn't lose them to the royal guard. Amyu then wonders why he was picked instead of Yifa, and Seikka says that he's not all that, but Amyu doesn't bite at all. Later, as they walk across the garden, they talk about Mabel, and Amyu assumes that she's a noble who got her spot through some crazy nepotism connections. While they talk, Mabel suddenly shows up and says that Amyu wasn't picked because she's weak. Amyu gets mad instantly and grabs practice swords from some weirdos nearby, challenging her. They take their stance, and Seikka notices that Mabel looks as confident as Amyu with the sword. Yifa wonders if they should stop them, but Seikka wants to watch, so he starts the fight, and Amyu attacks first, but Mabel blocks easily and attacks back. Amyu gets overpowered immediately and falls to the ground. Mabel makes fun of her, and Amyu complains that she used magic. Mabel says Amyu is weak because she expects second chances, and she also warns Seikka to withdraw from the tournament if he isn't going to take it seriously. Seikka thanks her for the warning, and she leaves with all the aura that Amyu wagered. Yifa then checks on Amyu, who gets up and says that she's made up her mind. And soon after, Seikka rides with Mabel on a carriage to the capital. Seikka wonders why Yifa and Amyu are coming along. Yifa says she's going as his servant, and Amyu is just happy to be there, even though she got no permission from the school. As usual, Seikka starts feeling road sick, and Mabel calls him pathetic. Amyu tells her to respect her elders, but Mabel reveals that she's the same age as them, but she enrolled a year later. Yifa reveals that she also enrolled a year later, so she's actually older than all of them, and now it makes sense to Ami why she's got such massive nokers. Mabel says that the academy is disappointing because everyone acts without a care in the world, but Seikka channels his inner Sherlock and says that they are all still growing. They finally arrive at the capital, and Seikka is still sick from the ride. Yifa suggests he go rest at the inn, but Seikka insists on checking the arena first to see the tournament bracket. Minutes later, he checks and sees that if he and Mabel keep winning, they'll meet in the semifinals. After confirming this, he finally goes to the inn to rest. Yifa wants to stay with him, but he tells her to go explore the city with Amyu instead. Amyu jokes that he needs his special alone time, but he tells her to stop being weird. After they leave, Seikka decides to figure out why the academy picked him instead of Amyu. On the tournament day, the announcer explains that magic is now allowed, so about half the fighters are mages. Every fighter gets a special amulet that absorbs damage, and if it breaks, they go back to the game lobby for them. Seikka immediately understands this is just a safety feature so fighters don't get smoked and ruin the event, since dead contestants can't really entertain the crowd. Seikka enters his first match, and his opponent is a former noble mercenary called the Mad Dog Speedster, a pure swordsman known for speed and anger issues. He got kicked out of his family for bad behavior, so he's happy to fight Seikka since he hates nobles and virgins. The swordsman looks down on mages, saying that their spells are slow, but Seikka says that he still feels sick, and the guy thinks he's making excuses. The fight starts, and the guy instantly stabs Seikka. For a second, it looks like he actually one-shotted him, but Seikka uses a talisman and appears behind him. He then activates another spell and blasts the guy straight out of the ring. Seikka wins, and the crowd is confused because it ended so fast that they barely processed what happened. Seikka realizes he might need to hold back more, since ending fights in one move makes him stand out too much. Later, when he's alone, Yuki appears and asks how far he plans to go, warning him not to stand out too much. She also says that he's using a lot of talismans, but he says he has to, since he's constantly watching over Emu and Yifa. In the next match, it's a guy named Bellum versus some dude named Kyle, a guard working for the Rugrock merchants. The match begins and Bellum prepares himself, but suddenly notices Kyle staring at him. Seikka immediately senses something is wrong, and Kyle walks forward slowly while Bellum stands frozen, like his controller disconnected mid-fight. Kyle walks up and stabs him, and the crowd is shocked for a moment, but then they cheer anyway. Seikka focuses on Kyle and realizes that he has an evil eye, a broken ability that lets him curse people just by looking at them. Moments later, Seikka enters his second match, and his opponent is a giant golem called Labonaire the Puppeteer, who looks like it only exists to bully mages for a living. Its master starts bragging, saying that the golem was specifically built to counter magic, so Seikka has no choice but to surrender now to avoid embarrassment. But right after the match starts, Seikka secretly summons one of his demons, Sickle Weasel, and it slices straight through the golem like it's Samurai Jack showing off. Then it disappears before anyone could realize it. To everyone watching, it looked like Seikka just airbent it away. So the woman gets confused, since her anti-mage monster just got deleted by a mage. Seikka tells her that she should surrender instead, and she immediately does, which declares him the winner. After the fight, as he walks into the tunnel like a champ, he tells Yuki that it was a close fight, but Yuki is confused, since it got settled in 5 seconds like a warm-up. Seikka tells her that summoners are banned in the tournament, so if anyone had noticed his demon, he would have been disqualified, meaning that he just committed illegal demon activity and got away with it. When he returns, Yifa starts worrying after seeing how brutal Kyle was earlier, so she thinks Seikka should quit before something bad happens. Seikka then tells her he will be fine, since he has been doing suspicious demon activities for years, but Emu complains that his fights end too fast and are boring, since he keeps deleting opponents like they are weak-side characters. Emu then asks if he plans to join the Imperial Guard if he wins, but Seikka says he will refuse. Emu feels relieved hearing that, even though she tries to hide it, and Seikka says that he's not guaranteed to win, but Emu cannot even imagine him losing. Next, Mabel enters her match against Howlo, an Earth Mage. He attacks using rock blasts, but Mabel slices right through them. He tries stronger magic and creates walls to defend himself, but Mabel keeps destroying them with her daggers like they are made of paper. Emu wonders how she is doing it, and Seikka realizes she is using gravity magic to make her weapons heavier, turning every throw into a deadly attack. Mabel eventually rushes him and destroys his staff, forcing him to surrender immediately. The announcer calls Mabel the unstoppable hero, which confuses Seikka, but Emu explains that the original hero was also named Mabel and used the same weapon, but things aren't adding up. Later that night, a green-haired dude sends out a secret message through a pigeon, but Seikka intercepts it. The man tries attacking him, but Seikka restrains him easily and reveals that he saw him meeting with an informant earlier. The man refuses to talk, so Seikka summons Satori, a demon that reads minds, and instantly pulls the information directly from his brain. Seikka learns that the man works for the demons and is targeting the hero, who turns out to be Mabel. After confirming everything, Seikka releases the man, then tells Satori that it can have him as its happy meal. Satori eats the man alive, and it says that it had to be done since letting him live would be dangerous. Seikka finds out that it's reading his mind without permission and immediately threatens him, which makes him back off until Seikka seals it back. Yuki shows up after witnessing everything, and Seikka apologizes for scaring her. He then calls his raven and checks the pigeon message, but it is encrypted, which annoys him since he already turned the only guy who could explain it to Demon Chow. Still, Seikka figures out the Academy's plan, which is to let Mabel act as the fake hero and attract all the attention, so the demons target her instead of Anu. Yuki asks about Mabel's identity, and Seikka assumes that Mabel isn't even her real name, but he does not care enough to investigate since she is helping protect Amu anyway. The next day, Kyle sends his opponent to the backrooms using his evil eye again, and another student named Renus advances too, since he can use all 4 elements like the Avatar, which immediately makes everyone hype him up like he is the main character. Renus meets Seikka and tells him that they'll meet in the finals, and Seikka wins his next fight easily against a necromancer. Mabel also wins her match without doing much, and after a fight, she confronts Seikka and asks him to withdraw before their semi-final match, warning him that she will not hold back and might unalive him, but Seikka refuses. Meanwhile, Kyle's opponent withdraws, so next up is Kyle versus Rhaenys. Rhaenys buffs himself with light magic to resist the evil eye. And Amu gets shocked since this guy already uses 4 elements and now added light magic too, basically trying to assemble the whole Avengers in himself. Rhaenys starts attacking Kyle using fire, wind, earth, and water, but Kyle keeps walking forward like Rhaenys is throwing pebbles at a wall. Seikka realizes that Kyle is using gravity magic to protect himself, just like Mabel. Rhaenys quickly summons multiple golems to defend himself, but Kyle uses shadow magic and destroys all of them instantly. Rhaenys then tries to attack directly, but Kyle traps him with shadows, and before Kyle can chop him up like sushi, the referees stop the fight and declare Kyle the winner. Later that night, Seikka thinks about returning to the academy after the tournament, and Yuki reminds him not to win, since winning would ruin their plans. As he tries to sleep, Yuki suddenly transforms into her human form and says she wants to sleep beside him like that, because why not? Then Seikka senses something wrong and notices Mabel watching from the roof using his shikigami. He jumps toward Yuki to protect her, which makes her happy. But suddenly Mabel attacks, throwing knives and tackling him out the window. Seikka escapes using his spells and body double talisman. When some random drunk guy interrupts, she throws something at him, then disappears immediately after. Seikka realizes she retreated and tells Yuki that they will stay with her for the night. After some time, Mabel gets a vague flashback about her past, remembering something unclear involving her brother. But Seikka shows up immediately, putting her straight to combat mode again. Seikka tells her that he's only here to talk, but she wonders why he would want to talk with someone who almost made his sleep permanent. Seikka already knows that she wasn't trying to unalive him, and she admits it, saying that she only wanted to break enough bones so the prize money would just be the hospital bill. She wants him to withdraw since she needs to reach the finals, so she asks him once more to stop being stubborn and step aside. Seikka then reveals that he knows that she's only pretending to be Anu, acting as bait to draw the demon's attention, but Mabel corrects him and says her real mission is not to win, but to be unalived by Kyle, so the demons will believe that the hero is dead. She tells him that both she and Kyle were raised by the Rogrock merchants, who specialize in turning slave young people into perfect soldiers. These merchants perform a disgusting operation where they open the skull and engrave magic directly into the brain, removing fear, doubt, and free will, basically uninstalling the person and installing a magic virus. She adds that the merchants raise them in groups of 4, forcing them to live and train together so they build trust, only for that trust to be completely destroyed later. In the end, only one child is chosen for the operation, and that child must unalive the other 3 as a final test, proving that they became an emotionless soldier. Mabel says that she was considered disposable, so she was given this mission as bait, and her official purpose is to die at Kyle's hands. But secretly, she plans to reach the finals and unalive Kyle herself. Seikka immediately figures out the truth, noticing her dyed hair and matching eyes. Realizing Kyle is actually her brother, she admits it and explains that before his operation, her brother told her that if he ever became someone else, she should be the one to send him to the backrooms. She says she no longer recognizes him, since the real one would never unalive people without reason, so she plans to honor his last wish and free him from whatever he has become. Seikka asks if she can even defeat him, but she says it does not matter, since she will get smoked either in the tournament or later when the merchants dispose of her like expired trash. After hearing everything, Seikka decides he will reach the finals himself and defeat Kyle, telling her that she does not need to carry this burden anymore. She does not believe him and says it is too late for her, since her life was decided long ago. But Seikka insists she can still live freely and return to the academy, promising to protect her. The next day, their semi-final match begins, and Mabel appears with a massive battle axe, finally dropping the fake hero act and revealing her real fighting style. She attacks immediately, but Seikka dodges everything. He counters with stones and vines, testing her, but she keeps resisting, until he secretly increases the weight of her axe 1,000 times, slowing her down, then strengthens his vines with mercury. Seikka grabs Mabel's massive axe, and she tells him that it's pointless because the weapon is way too heavy for him to even move. However, Seikka uses one of his talismans to reduce its weight, lifts it easily, and ends the match right there. Seikka gets declared the winner, and afterward, he reassures her, telling her to leave Kyle to him because he's the main character here. In the finals, Seikka faces Kyle and apologizes for interfering with their plan. But Kyle does not care at all and only focuses on the fact that Mabel is still alive, since his mission is not complete until he unalives her. Seikka tries to reason with him, but Kyle refuses to listen. The fight starts, and Seikka immediately summons a thick red mist to block his vision, then attacks with flames. But Kyle's gravity magic protects him easily. Seikka then switches tactics and binds him using the mercury-infused vines again, but Kyle escapes using shadow magic and keeps walking forward like the Terminator. Seikka then summons a gate and calls out a giant minotaur, and Kyle's shadows have no effect on it, so the minotaur overpowers him instantly. Seikka even says that if Kyle could still feel fear, he would have never chosen this path. Seikka plans to let him live, but suddenly Kyle gets hit by a curse, and Seikka blocks it too late, with Kyle already coughing blood from the damage. Kyle uses his last moments to send a final message to Mabel. Seikka doesn't agree with the outcome, and he tries using a forbidden technique to revive him. But Yuki warns him that doing that would attract dangerous attention, reminding him of the problems he faced in his previous life, so he stops himself. After the fight, Seikka tells everyone that Kyle was completely destroyed, and they believe him, declaring him the winner of the tournament, while in reality, he plans to bury Kyle's body so that Mabel can say goodbye properly. Seikka delivers Kyle's final message, where he apologized for a 4-leaf clover, and Mabel remembers their childhood, especially the moment he broke her 4-leaf clover hairpin. And she finally breaks down and accepts his death. She finally feels relieved when Seikka tells her that she can safely return to the academy and not be a mindless assassin. As they walk out, Emu challenges Mabel to another fight and reveals that she can now use gravity magic too, surprising her. However, the two slowly start getting along instead of trying to tear each other limb from limb. Later, the principal reveals she planned everything so Seikka could save Mabel, admitting she has lived for over 300 years and already knew that he was not some normal noble loser. Mabel returns to her normal life but struggles with studying, and when Seikka pushes her to prepare for exams, she tries to escape until Yifa tells her that he's been going easy on her this whole time. Days later, at the lunch hall, Seikka is having dinner with the girls when they ask about his plans for the summer break. He then tells them about a dragon that Blaze asked him to investigate for the kingdom of Asteria. After Yifa says it must be because of his amazing grades, the girls ask if they can come with him, but Seikka tells them to go back home, not realizing that they both want to get into his royal sheets. Just then, Prince Cecilio of Asteria walks in with his assistant, a hot elf named Lies. He immediately walks over to Seikka, who then says they should have just sent for him. After Cecilio says he was actually touring the academy, he spots Yifa and immediately starts dropping pickup lines like a kitty-starved creep. However, the real shock sets in when he asks her to join his harem. Yifa quickly says she is Seikka's slave, but Cecilio says it's nothing to worry about since he can easily pay any price Seikka names. Just as Seikka tries to explain that she is not for sale, Lai suggests having this conversation elsewhere. Minutes later, in a private room, Cecilio explains that the dragon troubling his nation has actually worked with them in the past. Its recent change in behavior has left everyone confused, and although it hasn't caused much damage, they want to deal with the problem before it becomes too much to handle. Seikka then asks how the dragon started living in peace with them in the first place, so Cecilio explains how it was allegedly hatched by one of the past queens of Asteria. After spotting Yifa again, he suggests making dinner plans, but Lies tells him to keep his glizzy under control. Much later, Seikka is on his way back when Emu and Mabel drag him into the shrubs to ask for every detail of his talk with Cecilio. They mostly want to know what he wants with Yifa, so Seikka admits that he really likes her before saying that he doesn't want to get in Yifa's way if she wants to join the prince's harem. Emu and Mabel immediately tell him not to say this to Yifa, as she might get the wrong message, so Seikka agrees. The next day, he joins Yifa in a carriage for a trip to Asteria. As usual, he quickly gets sick of being on the road. But when Yifa says that Cecilio invited her to his carriage, his blood starts pumping again. She also says that being considered for Cecilio's harem is actually nice, and this makes Seikka confused, as he has never experienced jealousy before. Days later, they finally make it to Asteria, and just as they leave the carriages, the dragon shows up. As Cecilio explains how it has been troubling the local businesses, it flies straight towards them. The next moment, a massive lava tiger appears and chases the dragon away before locking eyes on Yifa. It suddenly charges towards her, but Seikka uses a powerful ice spell to keep it in place. However, its volcanic armor starts melting the ice, so Seikka prepares for a proper battle, but then a summoner named Zekt manages to get the beast back under control. Cecilio then demands to know why his death monster is being allowed to roam free, so Zekt explains how the dragon started attacking people while he was gone. Cecilio then introduces him as the head of a mercenary group he hired to slay the dragon. Naturally, Seikka gets worried that he is taking such a drastic step to solve the problem, but then Zekt interrupts to tell Seikka that he can easily unalive a dragon. Pissed off, Seikka warns him to keep his little pets on a leash because he won't be so kind the next time one of them attacks. After telling Zek to leave, Cecilia warns Seikka that it's dangerous to provoke a thug like him, so Seikka apologizes. However, he is still against the idea of slaying the dragon because it has been a symbol of harmony for their kingdom for years. After learning that Cecilio hasn't even told the queen or his subjects, Seikka disagrees even more. However, Cecilio says the decision is up to him, as his city is the one being constantly attacked. At this, Seikka admits that he might have overstepped, so he walks over to Yifa and asks why she stood there like a human popsicle as the tiger attacked. As he scolds her for not staying alert, Cecilio tells him to stop being so hard on her, but then Seikka tells him to stay out of it. As they head out, he recalls the day Mizuchi ate one of his students and decides to train Yifa a lot harder so she won't end up in the same situation. The next day, after hours of research, they both find accurate records of the dragon's history. It all started when a past queen hatched a female dragon egg and raised it to live peacefully with the country folk. As the years progressed, a male dragon joined her in the mountain, and together, they made another dragon egg. However, that was over a century ago, and the first dragon is now dead, while its offspring left the nest decades ago. With that, Yifa guesses that the male dragon is probably lashing out because it is all alone. But then Seikka decides to go up the mountain to see for himself. Yifa gets worried that the dragon is too powerful, but Seikka says he just wants to take a look, so she offers to tag along. When he tells her not to bother, she accepts with a smile while hiding how bad she really feels. Later that night, Yifa shows up at Seikka's room to tell him that Cecilio has summoned her to his chambers. After saying that she doesn't have to go, Seikka notices the tears in her eyes and asks if she wants to stay in his room. She immediately says yes until she realizes that he only has one bed. But Seikka barely flinches as he offers to share it with her. Moments later, they get tucked in for the night. But then Seikka asks Yifa what she thinks of Cecilio's offer. She gets confused that he is even asking that, so he says it wouldn't be such a bad offer if she is interested. This makes her upset, so she asks if he truly doesn't care about her joining Cecilio's harem. Seikka then admits that he would miss her, but also says that she has to make her own choices. The next morning, Yuki wakes Seikka and tells him to go easy on poor Yifa because she obviously loves him. Seikka doubts this, saying she is only attached since they grew up together, but Yuki assures him that she has real feelings for him. Minutes later, Seikka finds Cecilio on a balcony and asks why he is so obsessed with Yifa. Cecilio then says she seems like a really wise lady, along with the fact that she is smoking hot. When he offers to pay any price for her, Seikka says it is completely up to Yifa if she wants to join his harem. He also tells Cecilio about his plan to go see the dragon, so Cecilio wishes him luck while cooking up a new plan for Yifa. After Seikka leaves, Lies finds Yifa and takes her to a balcony overlooking the entire kingdom. There she explains that the immense magical energy in Asteria is why the dragon guards it. Yifa tries to play dumb about magic, but Lies tells her to drop the act because it was easy to see that she has elf blood in her veins. She then tells Yifa to leave Seikka and join the harem because Seikka is literally a monster in human form. She insists that he is dangerous, but Yifa refuses to accept this and says she has spent her entire life with Seikka. Lies then asks if he is really the son of Blaze, and after Yifa says no one knows his mother, Lies says he might be a half-demon. This would explain why elementals avoid him. But Yifa still doesn't want to even consider that Seikka is bad for her. Meanwhile, Seikka has just gotten to the top of the mountain with help from one of his Ayashikis. After sending it back, he casually walks up to the dragon and says hi. The dragon immediately attacks, but he easily evades its attacks and summons another Ayashiki to pin it to the ground. After using a net to hold it in place, he walks into the nest and spots an egg. Yuki gets confused since the dragon is a guy, so Seikka explains that dragons can actually swap roles depending on their environment. Since the female dragon croaked a while ago, the male likely swapped roles to bear offspring. He then realizes that it has been attacking because of the egg and decides to help incubate it. By then, Lies has just taken Yifa into Cecilio's harem to show her what she is missing out on. Turns out, there are a whole bunch of baddies getting trained to join the country's political circle. They also seem genuinely excited to be one of Cecilio's many concubines, so Yifa tries to keep an open mind. On the other hand, Seikka is still keeping the egg warm and getting a bit tired of it. When he tries to leave, the dragon pulls him back because it's not ready to be a responsible parent yet. Just then, Lies takes Yifa to the balcony where Cecilio is waiting with two officials. They explain that getting her thumbprint on a document and paying a certain fee will be enough to buy her freedom. Hearing this, Yifa says they need Seikka's permission to do this. but Cecilio says he can easily override Seikka's authority. He also explains that he is just buying her freedom, so she won't have to be his slave anymore, and if it becomes a problem, he can just pay whatever price Seikka asks for. After considering it, Yifa refuses and says she would rather wait for Seikka, but then the officials tell Cecilio to force Yifa. They claim she will be grateful in the future, so Cecilio orders the guards to grab her. Yifa immediately tries to use the elementals, but Lies uses a barrier to keep the elementals away from her. She then cuts Yifa's thumb so they can use her blood for the thumbprint. However, just as she tries to get the print, Seikka returns with the dragon and explains what happened with the egg, so they don't have to worry about it. However, he needs someone with fire magic to keep the egg warm, and since Yifa is the only one, he leaves with her. Minutes later, they make it back to the dragon's nest, but then the flaming tiger from before attacks again. After using the same ice skill to trap it, Seikka tells Zek and his crew to stop hiding, because he already knows that they are after the egg. Zek then walks out and admits that he was deceiving Cecilio while trying to steal the egg, which is why the dragon started attacking in the first place. When Seikka tells him to forget about getting it, Zek laughs and orders the tiger to attack again. However, it suddenly gets blasted by a powerful spell, and Seikka gets shocked to see Yifa looking so confident. Zek then sends his boys to attack them, but this time, Seikka uses a single white flame spell to reduce the tiger to ashes. Like that isn't enough, the dragon returns, so Zek's men try to escape, but Seikka captures them. At this, he tries to blow up the mountain, but Yifa incinerates his spellbook. Much later, after getting Zek and his men locked up, Seikka tells Cecilio that he just has to help the dragon hatch its egg to restore their peaceful relationship. Surprisingly, Cecilio tells him to unalive the dragon and says he needs to accomplish something great to secure his claim to the throne. After Seikka refuses, Cecilio orders his men to arrest Seikka for using his magic to make the dragon erratic. Seikka initially tries to keep his anger under control, but then Cecilio tells Yifa that she can finally join his harem. As he gets closer to grab her, Seikka loses it and calls Cecilio a worthless rookie who has no business aiming for the throne since he obviously doesn't know how to be a true leader. After he refuses to let Yifa stay with someone as devious as him, Lies tells the guards to drop their weapons. She then tells Cecilio to learn how to take a loss, and after Yifa respectfully refuses his offer, Lies asks to speak with her in private. Once outside, she tells Yifa that her love for Seikka is very obvious, even if she tries to deny it. She then draws a special insignia to give Yifa access to more elementals. On the way back to the academy, Seikka asks Yifa about the type of man she would want to get married to. She then describes him, but he tells her to be a little realistic, because the guy she just explained sounds too good to be true. Elsewhere, a lone boy watches in horror as a team of demons led by a dude called Zormim obliterate his summoned beasts. When Zormim promises to spare his life for the information he shared with them, the boy refuses to believe him and summons a colossal cyclops to defend him. However, Zormim easily defeats it and tells the others to share the boy's body like a wagyu steak. Over at the castle, the princess is approached by two gentlemen who tell her that it's time to get ready to go, and she approves. Back at the academy, Seikka tells Emu that he wants her to meet his family, but she thinks it's some kind of marriage proposal. Yifa makes things worse when she gives her blessing, as if she isn't conflicted, but Seikka tells her that it's nothing like that. He explains that he's just going home for spring break, and his dad wants to meet this swordswoman, who can use every element like it's infinity stones. Emu breathes a sigh of no wedding plans relief and accepts, and Seikka invites Mabel too, telling her that his dad would love to meet the daughter of Baron Crane, so she accepts as well. Later, when he is alone with Yuki, Seikka admits that he's not excited about going home at all, because there's someone else waiting there too, someone really important. Later, when they arrive, they are greeted by Seikka's dad and his older brother, Luft. Seikka introduces his own crew, and Yifa finally reunites with her dad, Edis. Their reunion gets interrupted when Glai shows up out of nowhere, still carrying that emotional damage from losing his academy spot to Seikka. But Glai surprises everyone by thanking Seikka, since losing that spot pushed him into joining the army instead, which somehow worked out better for him. But even at that, he still hasn't forgotten the humiliation, so he demands a duel with Seikka, determined to get his lick back. Emu asks Yifa if this is the no-good delinquent that's been bullying them, and when she says yes, she immediately steps in to fight Glide herself, and he agrees to duel Glide only if Emu loses, which already shows he has full confidence in her. Seikka announces that no magic will be used in this fight, and with that, the fight begins. Emu attacks aggressively, while Glide tries to keep up and suddenly slips, giving Emu the perfect chance to end it quickly. Just as she moves in to put him in massive aura debt, Glide chants something, then disarms her immediately. Emu accuses him of cheating by using magic, but Gly tells her that he never actually cast anything, meaning he just faked her out and outplayed her mentally. Gly then demands to fight Seikka directly, still trying to restore his honor like Zuko. But before the fight can begin, Princess Fiona suddenly appears and stops everything instantly, and Gly actually listens without arguing, which shocks Seikka because this is unusual for him. Gly introduces her as Princess Fiona Alagly, the Holy Princess, and everyone is shocked because royalty showing up like this is never normal. As they walk inside, Yuki asks what a Holy Princess even means, since the title sounds like something straight out of a fantasy game, and Seikka explains that it's not an official title, but she was born from both the Emperor and a priestess, meaning she carries both royal and sacred blood, basically winning the birth lottery without even trying. Amy wonders why someone like her would come all the way here, and it becomes clear that the princess specifically wanted to meet Seikka. She asked them to be her holy knights, adding that she plans to stay for a few days, so she wants them to escort her back to the capital afterward. After she leaves, Amu starts questioning Seikka, clearly suspicious about how he somehow knew the princess would show up, like he's got some magic crystal ball. Later they have dinner together, and while they talk, Seikka's dad has a flashback where he's in his library, and he asks Edis to speak freely, since no one else is around. He asks if he is upset about Yifa being sent to the academy, and Edis admits that he is not mad about the academy itself, but he hates that his daughter is serving Seikka, since he finds Seikka creepy and very likely to start a harem. His father defends him, saying that he has been doing well at the academy. Back in the present, Seikka's father praises him for handling the situation in Asteria, and his mother tells him to write home more often, which shocks Seikka because she spent his entire life acting like he was invisible, and now suddenly remembers he exists. Later that night, Amu visits Seikka in his room because she just wants to spend time with him, and she asks what he plans to do after graduation. She talks about going back to being an adventurer, since sitting still clearly isn't her thing, and Seikka remembers the time they were trapped in the dungeon together when he promised to go adventuring with her. Unlike most people who make promises and forget immediately, he actually plans to follow through, deciding that he will become an adventurer too. Amy feels surprised that he took it seriously, but she feels happy knowing they will stay together. The next day, Seikka shows Fiona around town while Gly reminds him that they left the other knights behind, meaning that they now carry the responsibility of protecting literal royalty. Fiona grabs his hand so she does not get lost, and they walk through the market, instantly attracting attention since a princess walking around casually is something people see every day. They try different foods, but their peaceful trip gets interrupted when a giant log of wood falls from a nearby construction site. Gly reacts instantly and destroys it with magic, while Amu creates a golem shield to protect Seikka and the princess from falling sticks. Seikka thanks them, but Fiona gets annoyed that he didn't show off his awesome main character powers. Later, Seikka buys her a small scarf and helps her wear it, and when she wonders how she looks, he creates a magic mirror for her. Gly tells him that he always uses strange magic, but Fiona loves the gesture. The next morning, the princess goes around looking for Seikka like it's a royal game of hide and seek, but Seikka uses his talismans to avoid her completely because he's allergic to social interaction. Yuki asks how the princess's future seeing ability even works, since it sounds similar to his divination skill, and Seikka explains that divination is actually limited, since it only uses available clues and tools to predict possible outcomes, meaning that it's more like educated guessing. But the princess's ability is completely different since she sees things directly without relying on anything, which makes it way more dangerous. While walking around, Emu passes by, and Seikka suddenly appears from the bushes and startles her like some spooky Halloween prank. She reveals that she lost to Gly again, which confuses Seikka because, based on raw strength, she should easily beat him, meaning Gly has clearly leveled up while she has been stuck in the same place. She says that the princess has been sitting alone playing chess, which just makes her look straight up sad. So Seikka decides to join her out of curiosity. It turns out no one else is willing to play against her, so she asks if he knows how to play, and Seikka downplays himself by saying he is just a beginner. The princess gives him a handicap and removes all her major pieces, leaving only pawns, basically nerfing herself just to make things fair. Seikka assumes that the match is going to be easy, but she suddenly spices things up by adding a wager, saying that the winner can request anything from the loser. She reassures him that he can refuse if the request goes too far, so he agrees, and they start playing. As they play, she asks him what he thinks the strongest piece is, and instead of giving the obvious answer, he says that the players themselves are the strongest, since they control not only the soldiers but the kings too. adding that politicians who can't get killed are the most powerful. The princess agrees but takes it further, explaining that most people think the king or dragon knights are the strongest, but she believes the real power comes from those not even on the board, meaning the normal people living in the country. She explains that she never had the king or knights supporting her, so she gained the support of the masses instead, trusting their royalty to carry her forward. Seikka realizes that this confidence probably comes from her foresight, and she's surprised that he knows about it. Asking if Glai told him, he confirms, and she tells him that she's grateful to Glai for telling him, adding that she knows the reason why she was given this power, and she's determined to use it well. Seeing that he's going to lose anyway, Seikka resigns early, and the princess makes it clear that she would never use her foresight to make the game unfair. The princess then admits she wants his support, clearly seeing his value, and Seikka immediately asks about her true intentions, since he knows getting involved with her will definitely bring trouble. She tells him that she wants to save someone, then describes a vision of young people playing near a huge hole without noticing it, meaning they will eventually fall in while living their normal lives, and she wants to stop that from happening. She admits that she cannot explain everything clearly because revealing too much could change the future itself, but even so, Seikka agrees to help however he can. Soon, it is time to return to the capital, and Luft comes to see them off like the reliable older brother he is. Mabel complains about leaving because she just started enjoying her peaceful vacation, but Seikka reminds her she has studies to return to. They begin their journey, and Seikka rides in the same carriage as Glai and the princess, since it is the most stable one. Glai finds it surprising that Seikka even has weaknesses, probably expecting him to be perfect at everything, while Seikka watches over the caravan. Suddenly, an explosion hits one of the carriages, but it turns out to be a decoy, meaning someone clearly planned this attack carefully instead of acting like random idiots. After Seikka steps outside and sees bandits surrounding them, the bandit leader orders his men to fire arrows at Seikka, probably thinking he is just another fragile mage, but Seikka immediately creates a magnetic cloud that stops every arrow easily, making their arrows look pointless. The bandits then try using earth magic, but Seikka blocks everything with his barrier like he is swatting away flies. Glai and the knights begin fighting back properly, while the princess asks for the bandits to be captured alive, so Seikka uses his vines to grab every bandit at once, ending the fight immediately. Afterwards, everyone wonders why the bandits even attacked a heavily guarded convoy like that, since the plan makes no sense unless they were desperate or stupid. The princess thanks Seikka for helping out, and when he asks if she knew who sent them, she reveals that she's got way too many ops, so she can't narrow it down. She adds that she already anticipated this attack and prepared spare carriages to transport the captured bandits back for questioning, flexing her foresight once more. Seikka worries about the risk of keeping them alive, but she tells him that the bandits are waiting for reinforcements that will never come, which means that they've lost without even realizing it. Later, they finally arrive at the capital and separate, and she thanks them again, reminding Seikka that she's always on his side. Somewhere else, the demons continue moving towards the capital, with one goal in mind: to unalive the hero. Days later, Seikka is back at the academy, being told that he has to represent the student body, which he accepts. However, on his way out, Yuki asks if that was a smart move, since his whole shtick is to be the puppet master working behind the shadows. Seikka then says he actually plans to act like a regular student trying to advance like everyone else. This will make him look a lot less suspicious, but Yuki is still worried that his true powers would expose him. Seikka says this is nothing to worry about, as he can easily deal with any problem without drawing attention to himself. Just then, he senses something off and tells Yuki to stick close to him. Around the same time, Zormam's demons show up at the city walls for their mission. After taking a good look around, he becomes uneasy and wonders why he is worried when they only have to unalive one measly girl. He quickly dismisses this concern and assures the others that it will be a smooth mission, as they just have to gather all the students together for a quick slaughter. Once he teleports them into the academy, a thick fog covers everything, but no one raises an alarm as they think it's just the weather. However, Mabel soon spots Murderev and instinctively knows he is a threat, so she attacks. The blood-hungry lunatic manages to survive her attacks and realizes that she is incredibly skilled, so he commends her. After losing her axe, she throws magic-imbued knives, which bind him, but Murderev still manages to break free. Mabel once again tries to use her knives against him, but Murderev blocks them and attacks her. However, after the dust settles, Mabel seemingly disappears. Moments later, the demons all notice that they are in the wrong spots, with Shikagamas in place of their targets. As they try to figure out what just happened, Seikka shows up on a magic circle. Zormam instinctively scans his abilities and gets shocked by what he sees. Seikka then tells Murderev that he is the only one who fought a real person, as all the others were his shikigamis. At this, Murderev gets excited and challenges him to a duel, but his head suddenly drops like a bowling ball. Pilaria sees this and thinks it would be a good idea to use her evil eye on Seikka. Zormim tries to stop her, but it's already too late as Seikka summons a white serpent that stops her heart with one look. Loni then tries to become the main character as well by using his taming abilities on the snake, but just as he tries to flee for Zormim, the snake digests him like deep-fried wings. At this, Zormim finally realizes that they have no chance at winning, so he tells Gannis to run back home and tells everyone that the demon lord has been reborn and he is siding with humans. Gannis tries to make him run as well, but Zormim says they can't make it out alive before unleashing a wave of his strongest spells to stop one of Seikka's weakest attacks. Minutes later, Gannis makes it to the woods with burns all over his body, so he tries to catch his breath, only to see a sudden slice across his chest. Turns out, Seikka had already signed all their death certificates before he even showed up. For the first time, Yuki admits that she is utterly terrified of him because he doesn't even need spells to unleash magic of such magnitude. Just as Seikka responds like this was actually nothing, Mabel shows up and asks if he saw the assassins she was fighting. Seikka then realizes that his spell to keep people away didn't work on her because she has been obsessed with defeating Murderev all this time. He then tells her not to worry since it's already taken care of, and when she asks if he was the one, he tells her to keep it a secret. Minutes later, he joins the rest of the gang in the banquet hall to talk about Amu's speech. All of a sudden, a group of knights storms in and demands to see Amu. Once she reveals herself, the lead knight says she is under arrest for unaliving a demon emissary. Confused, Amu asks what on earth they are talking about, but they quickly grab her. Yifa and Mabel then try to fight the knights, but Seikka tells them to stop because Amy will be released as soon as they prove her innocence. This makes the guards lose their minds, so they try to arrest Seikka for running his mouth, but the lead knight tells them to stop because everyone in the academy is the child of a respected noble. With that, they leave with Amu, and Seikka immediately reports what happened to the principal. She explains that it all happened because Amu is the only one they think could have stopped the demon attack. She assures him that she is doing everything in her power to free Amu, but Seikka suddenly turns dark and asks if her efforts will be enough to save Amu before her enemies unalive her. Seeing the shocked look on her face, Seikka apologizes for being so blunt and heads out to meet Mabel and Yifa. They're both also desperate for answers, but Seikka calmly says they have nothing to worry about since the principal is already working to free Amu. Shocked, they both ask if he plans to sit still and hope they get Amu back safely, but Seikka insists that everything will work out. Minutes later, he heads into the woods and summons Mizuchi, who then tries to run away again. This time, Seikka commands him back, but the moment he returns, Yuki asks for permission to speak before saying that he should forget about Amu if he really wants to avoid a repeat of his previous life. Curious, Seikka tells her to go on, so she explains how trying to free Amu will obviously put him in the spotlight he has been trying to avoid. He will also be going against the Empire, which makes him an enemy. But Seikka gets tired of the yapping and tells her to go back to shutting her face hole. As they head towards the Empire prison, Ami wonders if she will ever see her friends again before seeing a familiar face. Moments later, Seikka reaches the prison's airspace, so he uses his Shikigami to map out the entire facility before using them as stairs to get down. After he scoffs at the poor aerial security, a guard sees him and immediately sounds an alarm. In seconds, Seikka gets surrounded, but as the archers shoot their arrows, he scatters them with a gust of wind. When they try to attack again, he turns his Shikigami into boulders to crush them. With that, he heads deeper into the facility, but another group of knights shows up, so he summons his psychotic Ayashiki that slices through their bodies like butter. Seikka also joins the fun by incinerating the soldiers with his flames until there is no one left. When he finally reaches Amu's cell and melts the bars, she gets worried about what this could mean for his family. Seikka doesn't care though, so she insists that he return to the academy, so she can figure out a better way to regain her freedom. That is, until Seikka says they are planning to unalive her because of the power she possesses. Just as Amu asks what he is talking about, he senses someone and attacks, but it's just Glai. When Glai asks what he is doing, Seikka asks if he wants that duel again, but Fiona shows up to stop any more bloodshed. Seikka then demands to know the truth about their plans for Anu, so Fiona starts by explaining how being the hero makes her a much larger threat than he could possibly imagine. At first, everyone was excited to hear that the hero had likely been reborn, but as time passed, it became clear that the presence of the hero meant that war was coming. This is why the demons kept sending assassins, because they are also trying to avoid war. Amy's continued existence can trigger a war at any time, and so some people in the Empire would prefer if she were taken care of in secret. Seikka already knows all this, so he asks if they are seriously going to unalive her for a life she didn't choose. Fiona then tells him that Amu hasn't even attained her true powers because he keeps protecting her from the powerful foes sent to attack her. When she begs him to leave and promises to return Amu to the academy safely, Amu tries to tell him how Fiona and Gly kept her company. However, Seikka tells her to zip it and says he can't trust Fiona because she only became friends with them for this very moment. Fiona gets heartbroken by this, but she also expected it, so she tells Gly to call off the knights waiting outside while she takes Seikka and Anu to a carriage. She has already made preparations for them to safely relocate to the city of Ragna. After thanking her, Seikka undoes all the damage he did to the facility and also heals the knights. However, Fiona gets pissed because she already planned to blame the attack on a rogue demon. She eventually accepts the gesture and wishes them well before heading back inside. Moments later, Amu tries to talk about what this move means for them, but Seikka is just trying to figure out how to drive this rusty carriage. Meanwhile, a demon in Fiona's shadow asks who on earth that was because he could sense Seikka's power. When Fiona says he is this generation's demon lord, the demon asks why he is helping the hero. After saying that Amu is his close friend, Fiona adds that Seikka would help anyone, even if it puts him at risk. Days later, Fiona writes to Yifa and Mabel to let them know about Seikka and Anu. Much later, Seikka and Anu finally reach Ragna and are surprised to see Mabel already causing trouble while Yifa tries to de-escalate the situation. With his girls back together, will Seikka finally get some time to show them his magic wand? Comment part 2 to find out, and don't forget to leave a like and turn on post notifications for more videos like this.